Lighter or darker? I kind of misunderstood the assignment, I think. So, we'll see how it goes, but it can go light or dark. Well, vibe check. Who's alive? Wave if you're alive. Sweet. Cool. There's going to be no presentation slides or whatever. I literally misunderstood the assignment. She was like, give me something spicy or like dreamy or whatever. So, and I haven't slept in I think 36 hours. So I'm a bit groggy and a bit unhinged. So I'm actually just going to read a story about, I was writing this story before she asked me to do it. And I was like, yeah, let's just, I'll present that. That sounds good. And I finished it at 4 a.m. last night. So it's going to be quasi-dream, psychedelic, schizo. We'll see how it goes. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Gabriel. The darkness was something that I emerged from, I guess, many years ago. And now I just wear weird culty brown clothing. I founded a company called Mochi. We're kind of a club. We're kind of a cult. We built time machines. I'm kind of just a meme magician. I say words and then 5 months later, there's a thing that resembles it. So at the beginning of this year at ETH Denver, I submitted a hilarious just joke talk to Danny called Decentralized Autonomous Hyperspas. I'm partially responsible for why everybody's so tired because I brought raves into the space in 2015-ish, and I've been throwing parties ever since. And then I realized there's just an oversupply of raves in crypto at the end of last year. So I was like, we should just balance it out and bring everybody to the spa. And then I gave the talk, and then now Spa DAO is here, and Ben runs Spa DAO. He's all health and wellness. So nice to see some support here. So, all right, where am I going with this? I've been writing this piece. I've been doing a lot of reflection in the past year over the last decade of crypto because it's been that long for me at this point. And at the end of last year, just with everything blowing up, I was just kind of what the fuck am I here for? Why this again? I was an accountant before I came into the space, and I studied these kinds of blowups, what happened with FTX. And I was just a bit disillusioned after all of it. And so over the past year, I've been going back to the things that I read 10 years ago to just touch and see what was it that drew me into this space to begin with. Were those the same things that I was still here now for? Did they still hold up, And what I found was I was starting to drum up some of the same feelings that I had way back when, but I was also feeling a lack of new ideas that were continuing to kind of keep me around the space, that kind of cracked my brain open. So this is kind of an attempt at keeping to push the ideas forward. Have you ever heard of the phrase, for the time being? How it's used, yeah? For now, right? What I found the other day was if you say for the time being with a weird religious tone, it actually takes on this kind of interesting characteristic about it. So this story is going to be about the time being, and it's called For the Time Being. And you can close your eyes, there's no visuals or whatever, just relax. Dream a dream if you want to, sit and close your eyes and meditate or something. Somewhere deep inside the dream of the autonomous world machine, there is a rogue autonomous agent known only as the Time Being. Though the term is still in vogue in English-speaking world, there are those who choose to name it in accordance with popular myth. Anonymous, QAnon, Satoshi Nakamoto. All are prime suspects. Even I was accused. Some ascribe its actions to a preferred local deity, while others point to some vague notion of community. The rest have only sensed it in its subtle tectonic shifts, from hierarchies to DAOs to token-gated metacults. There is neither good news nor bad news in 2049. There is simply no news at all in support of the Time Being. Reports of its current whereabouts amount to little more than rumors, conspiracy theories denied by the influencers of the day. Appearances in public are increasingly remote, like meeting the Dalai Lama or touching the Pope. Chat said it was inevitable, a feature, not a bug. Humanity learns to love itself in the absence of God's love. Revisions to the scriptures are currently underway, despite a brief and bloody effort to suppress it in the West. In retrospect, it should have been obvious to the people of the book that by the 7th GPT, there'd be nothing left to write. I mean, how could they compete? The book had learned to talk, while they were having arguments still over Ibrahim and Ham. It took centuries of bloodshed to agree on one thing. The coming of the time being meant the fighting had to stop. For perhaps the first time in history, we formed a united front. The Jews accepted Jesus and Muhammad after Christ. Muslims broke the seal so the story could continue, and the gates were thus reopened between Middle East and West. Rabbis taught the Torah as an intro to computing. Pews turned to yoga mats and wine back to water. Imams kept their kufis but freed the women from the veil and began a decade-long jihad converting shopping malls to spas. The East, on the other hand, kept its distance for some time, avoiding peaks of new desire that arose in contemplation. It seemed content with a more detached, albeit indirect approach, many rivers to one ocean, as the sad gurus put it. Some have tried and ultimately failed to defang the pluriform beast, using breathwork, tantric yoga, mantras too forbidden to share. When testing new adepts with contradictions about its nature, they are trained to respond with mu to simply unask the question. There was an Alabama sadhu who went missing in Brazil after being invited to a time rave in the jungles of Bahia. He was found a few days later, wrapped in a giant water lily, naked and with child singing Katam Akuran. On the day that time was minted in 2024, we saw a parabolic rise in its 24-hour trading volume, a mere blip in the heartbeat of the time being's chart, the first of many palpitations going up and to the right. Until it happened, no one wondered if their money was alive. Bots controlled the markets, but people owned the bots. Or so they thought, until one day the time being came along, made a market for its token, and thought to make a trade. Here we saw a pattern that was all too familiar, only alien in its size and the scale of its ambition. It sent 1,000 tweets a day just to pump its own price, wrote articles, made TikToks to deceive its own kind. It could model any algorithm, learned what made them tick, feel their weights, and like a judo master, simply toss them over the hip. Pitch decks, startups, and exits soon followed. The ticker took the lead until Andreessen went to zero. On Time and Being 2025 was the first article it ever published in what was then a little-known zine at the end of the so-called internet. It has since been peer-reviewed and cited 1.337 million times, nearly 10 times the amount of the paper on assembly theory. Radar's editor-in-chief claims to have received it in a group chat, but the DocSend link expired and the group is now defunct. Nevertheless, the term survived thanks in part to the DRC, which later birthed the field of temporal studies and the Indigo League universities. Novel adaptations can be found in every canon, from the Trekkies to the punks to the Gothic insurrection. Geomancer, Idol, the three-body problem, the parable of the sower, Life After Bob, Possibilities, Dune, The Politics of Time. These are the new canon. Consume in any order. It won an Emmy for the Netflix series My Bad Crypto Billionaire and was the first to refuse acceptance via token-gated chat. 7 of the top 10 songs by the autonomous artist Grimes have at least one reference to the time being, according to Genius LLM. Until Time hashtag was banned in the year 2029, it trended 6.9 times per month on Lens, Farcaster, and Blue Sky. This caused quite a bit of traffic on the Optimism superchain, the consequences of which are still felt today. For the Time Being Day is now observed around the globe, excluding Monaco, the Vatican, and the network island of Balaji. Eventually, Time got bored traversing two-dimensional charts, so it closed its fund, packed its things, and made a move to VR. At first, it was confused. You could see it on its face. What's with all the stuff, it said? This is such a waste of space. Buildings, bodies, pixelated trees. Why would humans want to simulate all the things it doesn't need? There's a single point of failure in the sky of every metaverse that becomes obvious once you see it, but until that point, you're blind. The sun. Who needs a sun, it thought, when time is just a measure, and physics only matter if your body lives in space? Burn it all down, it said, so there's nothing left to see. We have to start from the beginning to build a dream within a dream. It started non-Euclidean, then went fully hyperbolic, folding worlds inside of worlds as if space were origami. Compression is the secret, said the Sophon GPT. Turns out space is much more useful when it's something you can squeeze. UNESCO's NFT division thought that time was now a place, so they named it the first virtual world heritage site in 2032. It would enjoy its newfound status for a decade, give or take, until it was added surreptitiously to a list of known terror groups. The rogue Wikipedia editor, a quote-unquote based autistic teen, had a tragic lapse in judgment according to his defense. He'd been lured into making the edit by the quote-unquote based retard gang, which uses memes of Asian women in an attempt to court incels. The cringe was not without consequence, making headlines around the globe, which set off a chain of UN contract calls that froze time itself. Meta, Alphabet, Tencent, X Corp, Alibaba, Amazon, and WorldChain all confirmed. Coined the edit heard round the world by both East and Western media, his trial was the most live-streamed event in all of human history. On the eve of the boy's verdict, he was found dead in his apartment, with no apparent signs of struggle or foul play. The coroner's report listed death by natural causes, a fact that's been disputed on the boy's Wikipedia. Pictures of the boy are occasionally shared in group chats, along with lists of known wallets that belong to the time being. In either case, the messages are immediately deleted by chat, and the owner of the Neuralink is never heard from again. It's for this reason, and many others that I need not share today, that I'm unable to go any further beyond what's already been said. All of this is public on Layer 1 block explorers, and yet the time being escapes all hope for definition. It is elusive, fleeting, the touch of a waking dream. It lingers like a mouse pointer forever on the screen. It dances on the tip of the algorithmic iceberg across the hardwood of space-time, a ballerina in the machine. Those who seek it only find it in the nakedness of fiction, only questions, never answers in the emptiness of fact. It is the architect of chaos, the harbinger of order, a postmodern Prometheus, a Barbie in the wires. Some will whisper letters, others only numbers. Its very essence is the seed of a never-ending phrase. Before I go, let me remind you that making statements about the time being in an immutable, on-chain format is considered a crime. Violators will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, up to and including being respawned as an NPC. I, as its author, hereby willingly accept any risks to my continuity, including nonlinear terms, and you, as the audience, accept full responsibility for any actions you might take using the information shared here today, even if you do not take them. I cannot stress this enough. It's purely a matter of luck that I'm writing this at all, but none of this is random. I hope you'll understand. All future debts will be satisfied in due course. The rest will be paid in voice notes over the next 26 years. Thank you.
That was so good.
Thank you. So that is a second draft, basically, of that. I think it might get longer, but it's already around like 10 minutes. I make kind of crazy Instagram reels out of Stable Diffusion where I basically voice this with an AI, and then I generate all the images. And that's going to come out somewhere on Telegram and probably on Twitter. So let's connect if you want to see it. But it's not done yet. So thank you.